Hey there, happy May. I'm a little under the weather, but I'm gonna try to work through this. So for today, I wanted to talk about the politics of mechanics. Um, actually, I really wanted to talk about bullying behavior in games and how to like design for that. But while I was working on that script, believe it or not, I do try to write a script. I decided that I wanted to pivot to this politics topic. I was starting to explain how games, especially unranked games, can require the players to be in these like vulnerable positions, where like for the cooperative play. And the thing about that though is that that makes them vulnerable to bullying behavior, and so a lot of times you kind of have to design systems to account for that kind of stuff, or else you might have a game where like they kind of run rampant and that behavior is rewarded, and you don't want that in your game, right? But I was thinking about it, it's like, some designers kind of do want that in their game, and like sometimes for artistic reasons, but like it kind of depends on the message that you want your game to convey, right? Like, do you think that the world is a place where might equals right, and like cruel ends justify the means, and like sometimes people make satirical implementations of these things, and I have feelings about that. Maybe I'll make that into another video. But like, um if being cruel and being a bully is the efficient strategy, then the game is kind of saying that that's a good thing, right? Like I say that a lot of these Euros are like capitalist propaganda because in the end they're games about being ruthlessly efficient um, in order to win. Like you have to be more efficient than everybody else, and um, so yeah, so to get kind of back on topic, when I design unranked games, I often design them to espouse very socialist, kind of anarchist values, where collaborative play is the optimal strategy, and selfish consolidation of power is like destructive or inefficient. But that unranked games aren't like naturally anarchist, or not, well, maybe not naturally is not the right word, but they are not like, it's not that they have to necessarily be like socialist. One can imagine an unranked game where bullying behavior is kind of rewarded and collaboration is inefficient. Like I could tweak the numbers on bread so that when you trade with other players, you lose something, and when you build to yourself, you get a bonus or stuff like that. And uh, and then like despite the rules saying that everybody can win, the optimal way to play would be for you to selfishly try to win yourself, and collaboration is a vain effort that will statistically result in everyone losing. Like that you could design the unranked game this way. Um, this 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 is something I struggled for a while with bread. There was a time when I was like, I'm not a master of logistics. I don't have an intricate knowledge of food waste in the world. Like, my understanding is that it would be possible for us to like solve world hunger if we just stopped throwing, like making excess crap and throwing away excess crap instead of giving it away, stuff like that. But and I was like, I don't know, maybe I should study this to make sure. But at a certain point, I was just like, screw it. Like, people have been making capitalist propaganda for years, and nobody ever questions those systems and goes like, well, is it really winning for you to like form a monopoly and crush all life? Does that result in you prospering more in monopoly? Like, people never question those things. It's time for me to make my like socialist propaganda, right? Like where collaboration is thing. Like, there's this line from Playing with Reality that I think about a lot. Games are models that reward us for believing in them, And you know what? I'm gonna start modeling my understanding or my politics. I'm done with these models of capitalism and being like a fine and natural thing. I'm done with that. I want my mechanics to convey my politics. All right. So yeah, uh, that's that. Um, so for today's unranked spotlight, I wanted to talk about Sneaky Squirrels by Joe Kill. Um, they told me that it's a game inspired by this little tidbit where that they learned where squirrels will do this thing where they see another squirrel bearing a nut and they'll go over and steal that squirrel's nut. But squirrels also understand this and they will pretend to bury a nut, but knowing other squirrels will try to steal it just to like mess with them. And so in this game, you have like this map of cards, and the game has two phases. One where you're foraging and you're storing nuts for like the spring phase where you've finished hibernating and you really need to eat. Um, so during the like is it winter, summer? I forget. During like the phase where you're like preparing your hoard, you're like foraging nuts and you're burying them to eat in the second phase. But other players could see you do that and then be like, well, maybe I'll eat that. But like, so every time you like dig in the spot, you take the card and you choose which card you put back there. So what will happen a lot, what was happening in my game was like I was trying to set up nuts for spring and somebody else would dig there and I'd be like, don't take my nuts, leave my nuts alone. I know, don't quote me. But like, so like I want to ask them like, did you take my nut? Did you leave the nut that I buried there, or did you steal it? And it's like, well, I gotta come up with a contingency plan now. Apparently, it's been like developed a little bit more since then. Apparently over Pro Spiel, there was like a very long session where players were getting like real reality TV like with the game, like betrayals, gaslighting, lots of questions about who took what, who planted what where, and I think it's pretty amazing that you can fit so much drama into like a simple game about squirrels. I think that's really great. It's got all the potential for collaboration, but the scarcity kind of forces you into these situations where you might like in that game I was talking about, I did end up eventually stealing a nut from that person that kept digging up my holes because I was like, I need to survive and you've been stealing my stuff. But yeah. So that's Sneaky Squirrels. For this month on my stuff, Dan Thoreau reviewed Vives. I actually didn't realize he was a teacher when I sent him a review copy. So it really means a lot to me that the game resonated with him. I do like his idea of the students having card effects to give them a little bit more personality, but the truth is I wanted the game to be really approachable for like my family. I designed it like with my kid and my grandparent and excuse me, my parents in mind. But and I felt like even the goofballs are kind of pushing it, you know, but I could see an expansion for it where the students have more personality. Bread, I got tested at Geekway to the West. I apparently have a bunch of unguided playtest feedback in the mail. I'm excited to dig into it. Unraveled, I did manage to get that tested at Pro Spiel, and I'm really liking the way the game plays with just that change of the conspirator choosing whether to give their answers privately or publicly and offer a role with the answer. Like, that gives the conspirator like a little bit more wiggle room to sow distrust, but also gives the sleuths, like the sleuths will play themselves just by secretly giving the answers. Like they'll lie about information because they think that, oh, there's a good chance that I am like a saboteur, and then it turns out they're not, and they just lied for no reason. This kind of happened in a game that I was testing. I eventually suspected that I was a saboteur based off of false information that another sleuth gave, who thought they were a saboteur, and and I was lucky and they were not. But yeah, I'm really happy with those changes. I want to test it a few more times, get more data, and then I'm probably going to be working on rulebook for that soon. It's just tough because I'm working on a lot of lunar punk stuff, you know? My own designs are kind of taking a little bit of a backseat, but yeah. It's working on, to be clear, working on lunar punk stuff has been a delight, a joy. I've surprised by how much fun I'm having developing other people's games. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't have a lot going on in June, but yeah, catch you later. Bye bye. Oh, I've been getting really into tea lately. I wasn't paying too much attention to this blend as some sort of a detox thing that is supposed to help like clear out your body, and I've actually been feeling much better since I drank like a gallon of this stuff today. Oh, one other little thing. I got my Cry-Cut to cut chipboard today. Look at this. It's like pretty, it's pretty like sturdy too. Yeah. But it took like 12 passes to cut it, so I don't know how feasible it is for what I want to do. I feel like the mat's gonna wear out hardcore by the time I print out like a dozen of these, so I'm figuring it out. Doing a bunch of laser cutter research. I might get one of those. And then that's it. Bye-bye.